He was barely a teenager when the court decided he would likely grow old, and possibly die, behind concrete walls. No chance to grow up normally. No real second life waiting on the outside. Just decades of time designed to wear him down, slowly and deliberately. Most people hear life with review and assume it means mercy. A loophole, a way out. But what if that promise is actually the cruelest part of the sentence? Because once you understand what this kind of punishment really looks like day after day, year after year, you start to realize why some say it's far worse than the alternative. And the part no one talks about is where the real damage begins. On paper, the sentence sounded almost reasonable. Life in prison, but with a review after 25 years. To most people, that reads like hope. Like the system left the door cracked open just in case. But inside the prison world, that wording means something very different. A sentence like this doesn't promise freedom. It delays it. It stretches uncertainty across decades, forcing someone to survive long enough just to ask for mercy later. And in cases this severe, reviews rarely end in release. They become formalities where the past outweighs everything else, no matter how much time has passed. Instead of counting down to a release date, he's left counting years with no guarantee they lead anywhere. Every day becomes an audition for a future that may never arrive. And that kind of waiting doesn't comfort the mind, it slowly erodes it. But the reason the court was willing to impose that kind of limbo says even more about what came next. What sealed his fate wasn't just what he did, but how the judge interpreted why he did it. In court, the judge made it clear this wasn't a crime driven by anger, money, or some emotional breaking point. There was no clear trigger. No explanation that made sense. That absence of motive was the most disturbing part. It suggested something deeper, something unpredictable. To the court, it meant there was no obvious problem to fix, no behavior pattern to correct. And without that, the idea of rehabilitation felt more like a gamble than a goal. The judge went even further, pointing out how unusual this behavior was for someone so young. Compared to others his age, his actions stood completely apart, raising serious doubts about whether meaningful change was even possible. In that moment, the court wasn't just handing down a sentence, it was quietly deciding that his future self might not be any different from who he already was. And that judgment followed him straight into a system that doesn't give second chances easily. At first, he wasn't thrown straight into the deep end. While waiting to turn 18, he was kept in a separate juvenile unit, a temporary holding space that at least acknowledged his age. But everyone involved knew it was just a countdown, not protection. The moment he became legally an adult, everything changed. He was transferred into an adult maximum security prison, a place built for fully grown men hardened by years behind bars. For someone who hadn't even finished growing up, the shift was instant and unforgiving. There are no gradual adjustments in adult prison. The rules tighten, the supervision increases, the tolerance disappears. Any illusion of being young or different vanishes the second those doors close behind you. From that point on, survival depends on learning fast and trusting no one. And the place he was sent to made that reality even harder to escape. The facility he was sent to wasn't built to help anyone change. Cross City Correctional Institution sits in a remote stretch of Florida, far from cities, far from normal life. It was once a military base, a place designed around discipline and control. That same structure now defines everything inside the prison walls. Nothing here is accidental. Every movement follows a schedule. Lights turn on whether you're ready or not. Meals arrive whether you're hungry or sick. Silence is enforced, then broken without warning. The system doesn't ask what you want or need, it decides for you, every hour of every day. For someone his age, that level of control hits differently. There's no room to make choices, no space to feel independent, no way to escape the constant reminder that your life is no longer your own. Time doesn't move forward in this place. It loops. And once you realize that, the days stop feeling separate and start blending into one long stretch of nothing. But the walls aren't the only thing closing in. The outside world is cut off in ways that make the isolation even harder to survive. Contact with the outside world is tightly controlled, and that's where the isolation really starts to sink in. Phone calls are limited, monitored, and timed. Every word is recorded. There are no spontaneous check-ins, no late-night conversations, no privacy. For someone who grew up constantly connected, the silence feels suffocating. Visits aren't much easier. Family members have to apply, wait for approval, travel long distances, and sit through heavily supervised meetings where nothing feels natural. Hugs are restricted. Conversations are watched. Even moments meant to feel supportive turn into reminders that freedom is gone. Over time, those connections weaken. Calls become shorter. Visits become less frequent. Life on the outside keeps moving, and the distance grows wider without anyone saying it out loud. What starts as separation slowly turns into detachment. And while those ties fade, something else becomes impossible to ignore. Everyone else his age is still moving forward. While he wakes up to the same walls every morning, people his age are hitting milestones he'll never touch. Graduations, first jobs, new relationships, entire lives unfolding in real time while his remains completely frozen. Social media makes it worse. Every update, every photo, every announcement is a reminder that the world didn't pause when he disappeared. Friends become strangers, classmates build futures, and he watches it all from a place where nothing changes except the calendar. That kind of comparison slowly reshapes the mind. You're not just serving time, you're watching your entire generation leave you behind. The gap grows wider every year, and eventually, you're no longer part of that world at all. You're just someone who exists outside of it, looking in. And somehow, the system still offers him something even more cruel than certainty. The possibility that one day, this might all end. The idea of a sentence review sounds like hope, but inside a place like this, it becomes its own kind of torture. Every decision, every interaction, every year of his life is measured against a future that may never arrive. One mistake can erase decades of effort. To even be considered, he has to show perfect behavior, complete every program available, express constant remorse, and prove he's changed, while knowing that the same system that doubted him from the start will judge that change. Hope and fear sit side by side, fighting for control of his mind. Unlike inmates with nothing to lose, he's forced to protect a fragile possibility that could disappear at any moment. And that pressure never shuts off. It follows him into his cell, into his sleep, into every quiet moment. But even if he does everything right, there's another reality waiting for him inside those walls. Inside prison, reputation spreads fast, and his story is already known. Being that young and tied to a case like his puts a permanent target on your back. Other inmates don't see a teenager. They see someone marked by notoriety, someone who stands out in the worst way possible. There's a particular hostility toward people who commit extreme acts at a young age. It's not sympathy that follows them, but contempt. Some inmates see it as a weakness to exploit. Others see it as something to punish. And staff aren't immune to those feelings either. That means he's never just serving a sentence. He's navigating a daily minefield of judgment, tension, and quiet threats. Every interaction carries risk. Every day requires constant awareness. And over time, that pressure becomes exhausting. But no matter what happens around him, the routine never changes. And that routine may be the most punishing part of all. Every day begins the same way. The lights snap on without warning, flooding the cell before his body is ready to move. There's no easing into the morning, no choice to stay still. Another day has started, whether he's prepared for it or not. Meals arrive on a strict schedule, slid through a slot in the door. There's no deciding what to eat or when. Food becomes fuel, nothing more. Something to get through, not enjoy. And once breakfast is over, the hours stretch out with nothing meaningful to fill them. Recreation offers the illusion of freedom. An hour in a concrete yard, razor wire overhead, guards watching from above. The sky might be open, but it's framed by barriers that never let you forget where you are. He walks in circles, counting time, waiting to be locked back inside. And when the day finally ends, there's no relief, just the realization that tomorrow will look exactly the same. Over and over again, until the mind starts to feel the weight of it. The real damage isn't always visible, but it's happening quietly. The brain doesn't fully develop until the mid-20s, and for someone his age, those years are supposed to be shaped by learning, relationships, and independence. Instead, they're being shaped by confinement. Long-term isolation at this stage can leave permanent scars. Anxiety deepens. Depression settles in. Reality itself can start to feel distorted when every day is spent in the same controlled environment. Without normal social interaction, emotional growth stalls, and coping mechanisms never fully form. There's no private space to process any of it. Every movement is watched. Conversations are recorded. Mail is read before it's handed over. There's nowhere to sit with your thoughts without feeling observed. Nowhere to escape the consequences of what you've done or the life you'll never have. And just when you think the pressure couldn't get heavier, reminders from the outside world find their way back in. The letters that arrive don't bring comfort. Most aren't supportive or curious, they're angry. Strangers from across the country write to remind him of his worst moment, spelling out their hatred in words he can't escape. Each envelope is another reminder that forgiveness isn't coming. Then there's the legal side, the last place hope is supposed to live. Appeals are filed, arguments are made, and for a brief moment, it feels like something might change. But almost every time, the result is the same. The sentence stands. Any small technical correction means nothing when the outcome doesn't move. Each denial makes the future feel heavier. It reinforces the idea that no matter how much time passes, the past will always outweigh everything else. And eventually, even the act of hoping starts to feel pointless. Which leaves only one thing to confront, the reality of what this sentence actually means. This is the part most people never see. A punishment that doesn't end with a dramatic moment, but with endless repetition. Years stacking on top of years, all spent in the same place, under the same rules, with the same limits. Not an ending, but a slow, controlled existence. There's no true finish line here. Even the possibility of review doesn't offer freedom, only another layer of waiting. Time keeps moving forward, but his world stays frozen, locked inside routines that never evolve. Some call this justice. Others call it accountability. But when a sentence is designed to outlast youth, hope, and identity itself, it raises an uncomfortable question. At what point does punishment stop being about justice and start becoming something else entirely?